Yeah, just about as groovy as a 10-cent movie. I'm your man, Calvin Gibbs, and this is Drama Talk Radio. As you know, Drama Talk Radio is the show where the word drama, DRAMA, stands for developing real and moving art. We're so happy, blessed, and pleased that you joined us for this segment of Drama Talk Radio. And here with me today is one of the, I'm going to call him a legend of Chicago acting world. Definitely been in the game for a while as an actor. He's gotten some credits for directing, and he's definitely in theater, making his mark in film. He's doing the thing. Please welcome to Drama Talk, Harold Dennis. Welcome, Harold.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Man, you are a busy, busy man. I don't know, for years, I've been following the work that you've been doing. You're showing you showed up in this play and this month, and like 3 months later, you're doing a play on the south side and the north side. You're all over the place. You're making your mark in film. How do you do it all and do it so well?
Other actors used to say, Harold, there must be two of you. Because I used to always make networking events, film screenings, and those types of things. And I used to do a lot of multi-level marketing in the 90s, learning how to network with products and things like that. And so when I decided to start acting in 1997, I had a little of that in the back of my head. So all I had to do was get good at acting. So I started taking classes in 97. And I've been taking classes for pretty much the whole over 20 years.
Wow.
Ongoing. And so, and when I started back in 98, I got involved in a blues play called I Was There When the Blues Was Red Hot. And we did it over at the Palm Tavern over here on 47th off King Drive, where the old Regal used to be. And we were going to do 2 nights of the play. I Was There When the Blues Was Red Hot, October 2nd and 3rd of 98. And so the show went up and it was such a hit. We said, let's keep running it. And so 171 shows later, I ended up leaving the show.
Wow.
Every week.
I actually saw you in that. I had just moved to Chicago from Brooklyn, New York. And I went to a lot of theater on and off Broadway myself, but I never thought about, getting on stage myself because I stuttered. I didn't have the confidence or the skills. So when I moved here in 96, I started checking out the local theater scene, and I heard about I Was There When the Blues Was Red Hot by Fernando Jones, right?
Fernando, yes.
Right. And I found my way over to the south side, and you guys actually did that in a tavern, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and
I don't want to say a hole in the wall, but it was one of those old establishments that the Palm Tavern. I believe it started in 1933. Then Mama Jerry Oliver took it over in 1951 and ran it all the way through the 90s.
Right, but you know what? It was perfect for that production, man. It encompassed what the play was about. So
absolutely.
So yeah, man, I saw you early on in my statute living here in Chicago. So
I would say that was the beginning of my career at that moment on the stage there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So 20 years later, here we are.
Yes.
Very cool, very cool. Now I was looking at your IMDb page, and man, you have been. I lost count. I lost count. It seemed like you are in 2, 3, 4 films a year. I mean, what's the number?
I don't even count now. And as I was mentioning, I was on set today working on a pilot of a independent series that they're probably going to get some distribution because of some of the people that are involved. And I'll be filming on something Tuesday. I just was in Atlanta last week, a couple weeks or so. filming on something. I met this young lady on Facebook a year ago, and so finally she flew me down, and then I'll end up going to New York probably the first week in December to shoot a second part of a second episode of what she's filming, and then I'm shooting a feature in December here in Independent. So I can't. I stopped counting. I stopped counting.
I definitely understand that, and I understand what people say. Are there two of you? How,
Yeah.
man? When do you sleep?
I got 3 hours of sleep this morning in preparation for filming today because I had to steam my clothes and study the lines to make sure so when I got on set I wasn't stumbling over them, and everything works out beautifully. So I do close my eyes 2-3 hours a night.
Okay.
But then sometimes 5, 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some people do think that sleep is overrated when you are living your dream, when you're ensuing your passion. They do say sleep is overrated.
And I do realize I have to have sleep. I have to. So, and sometimes I crash and will sleep a whole 8 hours.
Wow.
But that's rare. Yeah.
Okay. I hear that. So you've done a lot of theater, a lot of film. As far as an actor, do you prefer the work in film or theater? What's your pleasure and why?
Great question. When I first decided to start acting, and it was probably about 95 after I saw my high school band teacher, Mr. Watson, in Soul Food. I mean, he was in The Fugitive, actually. That was 94. And then he popped up in Hoodlum, Groundhog Day, and Soul Food. I was like, oh my God, my band teacher's right there in the movies. Mr. Watson, someone that I know personally. Even though I have an aunt that used to act off Broadway and overseas in Europe, that was long distance. Mr. Watson, he was like right there, someone that I shook hands with. And he had speaking roles with Harrison Ford and blah, blah. And so I was like, someone that I know, he's not on the East Coast or West Coast, he's right here. And I was like, if he can do it, I can do it. I want to do that. Because it was always something, it was a pipe dream.
Right.
And so when I started, I was doing extra work, and then I was talking to one of my buddies, and he says, we were talking, he says, HD, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to do movies, TV, plays, commercials? And I said it right there in 1997 or early 98. I want to be in people's movies. And so that's my passion. And it's always been because I grew up watching TV, wishing and dreaming and hoping, and me and my brothers and sisters used to play in the basement, make believe, and all of those types of things. And so when I saw that it was possible, I went forward, and that was actually 1995. 4 is when I started really thinking it was possible, and then it was 97 when I took that first step. And I hadn't looked back since, and I couldn't find the movies 97, 98, 99, but I did find the student film in 98. And I did the play, I did the classes over at ETA training and 97, 98, and on and on and on. And then all of a sudden the films started becoming accessible to me. And so I was doing a lot of community plays back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But then the films started coming, and so I just pushed the plays out of the way because they were more time consuming than what it is that I got into this industry to do. And so, and the films, as you can see, just kept coming and coming and coming. And I haven't even had the opportunity to do all of the films that presented themselves to me. I could just do the ones that I could get to.
Right. And what you said, it is very important about keeping your dream in front of you. Now, you said that you had opportunities in theater and you did that community theater for a while, but you kept your focus of what you wanted to do, which was film. And once that door opened, it seemed like it was just a cascade of opportunities coming your way. And and then you could start living what your passion truly was. And I think a lot of people can learn from that you know, uh, you may not be able to start doing what you want to do right away. Sometimes you have to pay your dues. Sometimes you have to learn some things. And then when opportunity comes, be ready because you may get more than you can handle. You may have the opportunity to be like Harold Dennis and turn down some roles, right? There you,
Absolutely.
there you go. Now I know also that you have been doing some acting workshops, and I know that we are all in a virtual world right now. So tell me a little bit about, well, not just a little bit, I want to go in depth a bit. What type of acting workshops do you um, conduct, and how is it conducting them in a virtual world?
Well, that's a great question. I'd like to take it all the way back and then come up here to this virtual acting
Okay.
teaching. So what how it all started with me and acting and teaching it. I started taking these classes with Ted Sarantos at Sarantos Studios. He was on the north side when I first started back in January of 2004. And I'll have to say that it's January 2004. In January 2017, no, what is this, 21? January 2021, I will have been training with him weekly for 17 years.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Every Wednesday, and we're in class virtually now on Wednesdays. So so I started studying with Ted, and so it was January, and by May I found myself at an audition at a cattle call for Robert Townsend out in the west suburbs, and I went and was in line for like 11 hours. So many people to meet, and this one kid. I think he said he had trained at Second City, but I was talking so much stuff and I was so excited. He was like, "Show me some of you're training with Ted." And so I took him to some part of the warehouse and had him do his monologue. And then I says, "Okay," and I just went from my instinct. I says, "Okay, try this, try that, try this." And so time passed, and he went in with his group block of people to audition. And when he came out, his sister was in the room too. And she came to me and she says, "I don't know what you told him or showed him, but that was the best I've ever seen him do." And so my thought back in 2004 was, I can teach this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would just work with actors here and there every blue moon. And then I did the Bronzeville Film Festival. They
Mhm.
did an acting workshop there.
Right.
Myself, Morocco, I think Sharon King was involved, Annette Galloway. And so we did that workshop, and that was really my first one. And I think that was 10 years ago. And then the next year, we did the United Nations Chicago chapter film festival. It was run by the same woman. And then the following year, I did it again. And I was watching crowds of people enjoy watching the actor do what I told them to do. The audience, the other actors were like getting it, like we do in class with Ted. And
Right.
I was like, I'm really getting good at this. And so every blue moon, I would do a workshop maybe twice a year, just go rent a place and invite people, they pay a little and come. And so then this COVID hit. And then I started teaching at Second City here in
Mhm.
Chicago, May of 2018. And so I'm teaching acting on camera. And that happened. And then COVID hit. And so I couldn't teach my classes, my acting on camera classes, because the students would walk away with monologues and two-person scenes and a 12-page script. And we do all of that within 7 weeks. So the eighth week, we review all of the work. So I had a TA. So I did a lot of hustling work, 3-hour classes. We spent time. And so when COVID hit, that class had to go virtual through
Right.
Second City. And we finished up the term, but what I realized that it turned into a philosophy class more so than a hands-on. So the student, it wasn't worth it. And so the class was canceled. And so I'm sitting around and say, okay, let me see. I need to keep some income coming in with this coaching thing that I've been doing for the last 2 years solid. And so what happened was I says, well, I'm going to do some acting workshops online. I'm going to try it. So I got a
Okay.
Zoom account, started inviting people, and this is the 30th week in a row. I'll probably set one up for Thursday. Uh, 30 straight weeks I've been holding workshops and people have been coming. And so from this also, last year at the Black Harvest Film Festival, for the first time ever for the 25th anniversary, I did a workshop with them, and that was successful. And I just did a workshop with the Black Harvest this year, just yesterday.
Hmm.
So, and it was virtual, and so they taped it, and it's a beautiful thing. And so the workshops online are really working out because I'm basically doing monologue workshops, whereas it'll work for the actor on a day-to-day basis too. So I'll have the actor deliver their monologue, show me what you got, and sit back and just take it in and say, okay. Then I ask myself, what do I see and what's missing? And so I see a whole range of different things. Some of the monologues, I'm like, you know what, that was perfect. Who's next? Next. But then I'll go back to him and say, well, I was just kidding. Uh, there's nothing I could do with that monologue. That was great. But let's just play with it and let's mess it up and see what happens.
Okay.
So then I'll give a suggestion, intending dream, saying, and intention is what is it that I want to happen as the guy doing the monologue. But I put it on them to put it on the audience. What is it that you want to see the person that you're talking to or the imaginary person that you're talking to do? I want to see them smile. Okay. Well, okay. Now see them smile then before you do the monologue. You see them smiling? Okay. Now, the next question is, okay, how would you play it to get them to smile? Oh, I would be happy, play it happy. Okay, yeah, okay. And every actor pretty much would, in order to get somebody to smile, would be upbeat and happy. Now, what's the opposite of that? Angry or sad? Okay, pick one. Let's say mad. Okay, so be as happy as you can and as mad as you can at the same time, which is impossible to do. But in the attempting to do both, now all of a sudden, instead of thinking about the words coming out of your mouth, you're focusing on seeing the person smile and being as happy as you can and as sad as you can. Not happy and then sad on this sentence, then happy on this sentence, but happy sad.
Hmm.
And so what happens is now all of a sudden the actor becomes in the moment, present, and they're not focusing on how am I going to say this words that I have to deliver. They're focusing on something else. And in the process, they start surprising themselves when things are coming out of their mouth that they're really not controlling. It's more like a subconscious delivery more than a straight conscious, I know how I'm going to do this delivery. And so in surprising yourself, that's the work, because if I surprise myself, of course, somebody else out there is going to be surprised when they watch, and it'll make you interesting, and people will want to pay attention to you and keep your eyes on. And then, if there's something else missing, we'll give you a secret. Let's say you just won $10 billion. Okay, now let's get them to smile. Go for it. Yeah,
Yeah, I hear that. I hear
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Now that's great. Getting into the philosophy of acting. It's basically creating different moods, different emotions that you can share with your audience, or that you can evoke within your audience. I know that in a monologue, uh, it's not only the delivery, but oftentimes it's the gestures, it's the way, the delivery, the stance that you may take in a virtual world. How do you adjust for that? Do you have the participants stand up in front of the camera, or how do you compensate? How do you compensate for gestures and body language?
Well, think of it like this. Think of it like this. This is a TV screen. And right now, I am the actor on the screen, and you're watching me. When I do my monologue, it's like watching the movies. And so that's my mindset. I don't have to say that to the actor. All they have to do is follow the direction and attempt to do what I gave as an instruction. And so my whole philosophy is what I told you years ago, a couple decades ago. I said I want to be in people's movies, but then I had evolved that one little thing when it started to happen. Is I want to make people feel something. And so in the process of asking how do I do that, the answer came to me. And my teacher Ted Sarantos, and it came in the well, prior to studying with Ted, it came in this book that was handed to me by one of my late Noops. He gave me the book Story by Robert McKee. And it was like 600 pages. And I was like, in 2002 it was. And I was like, I don't want to read that big book. But then, I had the time, I really had the time. And so I took a whole month and took my time. I'd have some place to go around the city and I'd walk and read on the South Side, just walking through the streets, reading this book, sitting around at night reading, because it's the philosophy of screenwriting. It's not a how-to screenwriting book, but it's the whole philosophy talking about genre, structure, the different types of films, the different types of screenplays, art films, poetry, prose, the Hollywood archetypical screenplay. So it's the philosophy, 600 pages of it. And so I read that book. And in the process of reading it, I discovered how to become a multi-layered character. And it talked about how to turn scenes. So these are things that a screenwriter should know: first, second, third act, all types of things, inciting incident, midpoint, plot points, and those types of things, which was brand new to me back in 2002. But anyway, to make a long story short, in reading that book, I learned some things that they don't necessarily teach actors in acting school. So I figured if I know what the screenwriter should know, I would be a better actor, which turned out to be true. So along with those things that I told you, the intending dream scene, playing the opposites, becoming interesting so people want to keep their eyes on you, that's a way to get people to feel. And the things that's in this book. And Ted Sarantos has said, and I'll always quote him because, I've been studying with him all these years for no cost. I just help him 3 hours of class, 3 hours of work, which after the first 5 years, then I'd be like, well, Ted, I can't stick around. He said, oh, it's fine, whatever. So, but I've helped him move from place to place, like when the COVID thing, when he moved out of his last place in Oak Park, and he's 82 years old now. He just had a birthday 2 days ago, Wednesday. Wow. Yeah. And so, I'm here for him, because he was here for me, the things that he taught. I was like, oh my God, I need this class, because he was filming the students too. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I need that. And this was back in early 04. I think it was early 03 when I first sat in this class. It took the 04 to get in there. Wow. So he always says, an actor is lucky to have one moment in a film where the audience will feel something. That moment in the film where you go, yeah. But it's possible to have. And so my whole thing is I wanted to learn how to have moment after moment after moment after moment after moment after moment throughout the film. And so when I read that book Story by Robert McKee, it talks about turning scenes. He talks about the opening point of the film, whereas you introduce the main character, and then how to get the audience to find out what the main character's drama is and like him enough to want to follow him through the whole film. And so it's turning scenes. You walk into one scene, the scene starts, and you're smiling, and then someone hits you in the eye. And so that's that beat plot point. Then you walk out the scene, you're hurt. So you come in happy, you leave out hurt. The next thing you come in hurt, a little kid hands you a lollipop. And so then you brighten up. And so that goes on throughout the film. And so people will follow you. And so you know that. And then, you become multi-layered. How do you do that? You look at it like the solar system. There's the Earth, there's the Sun, there's Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Pluto, on and on and on. And so, as the main character, I'll radiate like the sun. And so, I have a relationship with the Earth. I nourish the Earth. Jupiter, I treat Jupiter a certain way. And that little bitty planet down there, Mars, I'll be cold to Mars. So it's like the Earth is my sun. I will love and protect my son. My enemy, that antagonist, is Mars. I will be real cold to him.
Okay.
And let's say Jupiter is my wife. I'll be loving to her different from the way I am with my son. And so every character that I come into contact with in a film, I will be the character that I developed for myself and do all these other things that I showed you, but I'll treat each one of them different. That's it on that. And there's so many more things in the book. And so in the process, people will follow me and feel something just about in every project that I do more than once.
Now, that's a very interesting diagram that you just shared with us about the solar system. As you were talking, I was visually seeing the solar system. I was thinking, I've often thought of myself as the sun, okay, and everything else revolves around me. I have the earth, I have my moon, and the stars, okay, and you broke it down as to how you as a planet would treat, or the sun would treat the other planets, even the ones that's far away, and you're being cold with them. Now, what if you are not the main character? Okay, what if you're a supporting character? How do you but you're in a lot of scenes, okay, but you're not the main actor. How do you then transport yourself to being memorable in all those scenes?
Well, if you remember Devil in a Blue Dress,
Yes.
with
Don
Don
Cheadle.
Cheadle came in and stole the show, right?
He damn sure did. Yes, he did. Mouse.
Terrence Howard has come in and stole the show. What is that, Best Man or something?
Right.
And so, these are memorable characters that step in and create such a performance that, the main character did his thing, but these characters right here stepped in and made themselves memorable and future main characters, future stars. And so there's no balancing. There's doing the work, because the main actor is always going to do what he has been brought in to do. Why be weak? There's no, yeah. Why be weak? I mean, anybody can overact, but in a film, there's no what is that, upstaging? There's upstaging in theater when you step up in front of the upstage in front of the actor when you should be standing a hair behind him or next to him, measured. There's no really measuring how much of a performance I'm going to get. Ted always says, don't lower your performance to fit the play. Everyone else should want to step up to where you're at. And so I know how I am measured. So, underneath all of this, with my training, I can feel where I'm at and how much I'm at and where I should be more or less. And there's never a less. It's just is. It just is.
There is. Okay. Got you. In this virtual world, there's always the connection between audience and theater. I'm sorry, audience and actor. And in this virtual world, I've asked several prior guests about this as well. Thinking specifically about theater, I've seen some theater productions virtually, and for me, most of them failed because that connection between the actor and myself didn't exist. They didn't bring it to me. I didn't feel most of them. In this virtual world, uh, how do you think a theatrical actor, uh, I'm not talking about monologues right now, I'm talking about actual different scenes, can invoke that connection between themselves and the audience?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen a play performed virtually yet.
Mm,
But it's all energy. It's energy and it's projection. It's projection, and so I don't know if the actors were sitting or had the computer set up to where they can move around their space, and or if the actors were in the same space or in different locations doing it. And so obviously the connection was off. You were disconnected from what you were looking at. And so I really can't judge it except for uh, the projection from the performer. There has
okay.
to be something that they talk about, that string in Meisner, where there's a string tied to
Right,
you and the person that you're talking to. There
right.
has to be that projection, that thought of that connection. Without it, it could be willy nilly.
Got you, got you. Now, I did see a production that was out of Washington D.C. and man, for 2 hours they held me captive. I mean, they were I cared about each and every character. I was into it. I laughed when it was appropriate to. I felt the emotion, the sadness when it was appropriate to. And I asked the director afterward, how did you get them to do that? And the only answer she had for me is that they put a lot of time in reading the script, going over the script, and talking about um, the different scenes in the script. And I was like, huh, well, that's what everybody else is supposed to be doing too. I don't really have my answer. So I'm going to keep looking for that. I know there were some variables there that you don't know about in the shows that I saw, if they were standing, sitting, if they were all in one location, blah blah. But I'm going to keep searching for my answer because
Yeah, yeah.
because I'm very concerned because as a person that loved theater, I told you I went to theater on and off Broadway. I'm a kid from Brooklyn, okay? I'm a teenager in Brooklyn in the 70s, and I'm going off down to Times Square to see a show.
Well, let me ask you. My aunt, like I said, she used to be off Broadway in a one-woman show called Desiree, Marion Roll. And she ran that and then took it to Europe. She ended up doing like 200 productions, who unfortunately just passed this past March of COVID. But but she did that play, and the writers were from the Netherlands, who came to New York to go to film school, and they ended up making that film Desiree, which is on Amazon Prime right now. I mean, this was 2005 when I found out about that film when I was talking to my aunt,
Mhm.
and so I was trying to find it. Then my cousin found it on Amazon Prime like the year before last, late last year before last, or early last year, and it was crazy because my aunt, but they had other characters in it, and it turned out that Spike Lee had come onto the set to work a day or two because they shot it in 1984, and Ernest Dickerson was the cinematographer for it, and he
Mm.
wrote and directed Juice, and he shot all Spike Lee's early movies, Malcolm X, and those types of things. And so I had the opportunity to communicate with him, and I hooked him back up with my aunt after all these years.
Wow.
Last year it was amazing. It was great. It was
That's
honestly a beautiful thing. But she did that one woman show, and I was just thinking maybe you could have possibly saw that one woman show. And it was a super freaky story too, where it was real traumatic. But I would never talk about it because
Okay,
you may.
okay.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I don't think I saw Desiree. I don't think I saw that. But you mentioned Spike Lee, and he and I are from the same neighborhood, Fort Greene in Brooklyn. I
wow.
actually knew his sister. I knew his father. I used to listen to his father over in Fort Greene Park, blowing his horn and whatnot. And a lot of the scenes in Spike's early films was from our neighborhood. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And all that to say, there was a connection between this kid from Brooklyn and theater that I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it. And it's not until I moved here to Chicago in '96, didn't know nobody, didn't have any family here. Something was just telling me to move, to move. So I packed up everything I owned. I moved to Chicago. I joined the church on the west side that had a drama ministry. I volunteered to work the curtains, to meet some people. And the person that played Scrooge didn't show up for rehearsal the first time. They said, "Hey, guy on the curtains, can you read the part?" I read the part. Next rehearsal, he didn't show up again. Guy on curtains, one more time. And I put more into it. I ended up getting the part and getting bit by the acting bug. And then, off to Columbia and learning what I had to learn about stage work. And one thing that even as now as a motivational speaker, to me, the important thing is that connection with the audience and how you can use words to move them. You can make them cry, you can make them laugh, you can piss them off. And it's all the power of words and the delivery, as you know, of words. So,
Yes.
so,
I'll,
uh,
I'll I'll tell you. I'll tell you one quick story.
go
I was
ahead.
doing this reading over at the Wild Hair for Barbara Allen pulled everything together. This guy wrote this piece where they were talking about the pieces of poetry, and it was developed around the 1919 riots. And this was last year, about a year ago. And so it was about 9 readers, and I had a part. And so, and what I did was, and I had paper in my hand, so it was a reading. And I'm on stage, and there were a bunch of people out in the audience because it was a fundraiser because they were going to go down to North Carolina, Atlanta, and film some spots for this documentary that they're putting together. And so I did my part. I'm standing on stage, and I got the paper, and I got my reading glasses on, and before I started reading, I do what I always do. I look out at the audience, I take a deep breath, and I thought, I want everyone in the place to erupt, start applauding and cheering. And so I really saw them doing it. And then I started reading. I mean, the words were real tough too. Hang her, hang him, dragged him out of the jail cell and drug him up the street and hung him up in the town square in front of all the words were like that too. And so I really just pushed eruption from the audience. And so when I was finished, they didn't erupt. But what happened was one by one, people were approaching me, telling me how heartfelt it was and how I moved them. And so, that's part of it. The projection. What do you want the person that you're talking to do? And
That's right.
that's it.
That's right. That's right. Harold, I have enjoyed this conversation so much. Um, Please come back and join us again on Drama Talk when you have time and you can fit us in your busy schedule. When you have something, when you have something that you want to promote, I'm definitely here for you. Can you tell our listeners about your workshops, where they can find information about signing up for your workshops?
I post them once a week, and I usually go through Eventbrite, and I'll make a Facebook page, And generally, you can search on Facebook Interaction, like inner, INNER action, Interaction acting series. And I usually number them. This week is number 30, and they'll keep going until I decide to stop. But it seems like virtually, as long as we're in this lockdown, like we're supposed to possibly be these next 30 days starting tomorrow, I'll just keep doing them. And it's once a week. And or Eventbrite, Interaction acting series. You can find it there. And also, this Facebook group you could join, The Magical Actor Worldwide. That's my page, and I post everything there. The Magical Actor Worldwide. And yeah, I'll do an event page on Facebook with that too. But if you wanted to keep up with me, just request to join the Magical Actor Worldwide and say that you heard me here on Blog Talk, Drama Talk Radio podcast. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I would let you in right away. That's credibility.
Okay.
Because cool. Generally, I just let actors in, people in the industry, because I ask for who you are and what are you looking for in the group. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. And I will also help out with that. I'll find the link and I'll put it on Drama Talk Radio podcast page as well, in Facebook and on Spreaker, and wherever else Drama Talk Radio is heard, to help you out.
Yeah. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 99 Films on the Wall.
99 Films on the Wall.
Yep, the number 99, then Films on the Wall. Yep.
Got it. Thank you so much. Harold Dennis, actor, man busy, sleeping 3 hours a night. Thank you.
That was an exaggeration. It was 3 hours last night, definitely.
Thank you so much for spending time with us on Drama Talk Radio. And that's about all, y'all, for this episode of Drama Talk Radio. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs. I always want to thank my guest, Harold Dennis, for coming in today, sharing some thoughts with us about virtual acting workshops. And it's always important that we take 2 steps to the rear and get on out of here. Until the next episode, exit stage left.